year, there is talk about Gus Malzahn being on the hot seat. And every year, Malzahn delivers. Can he do it again in 2020? Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in all of college football. Today, bringing you our Auburn Tigers college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also check out everything in the description below, where you can visit our website, thegridironexpert.com, to sign up for our weekly newsletter and gain access to our exclusive expert picks. And also follow us on our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So Auburn is coming off a very respectable 9-4 campaign in 2019. Tigers' only losses came at the hands of Florida, LSU, Georgia, and to Minnesota in the Outback Bowl. The largest margin of defeat in those 4 games, just 11 points at the hands of the Gators. And all 4 of those teams winning at least 10 games in 2019. Auburn racked up some big victories of their own, defeating Oregon in the season opener, and also taking down Texas A&M at College Station and defeating Alabama in the Iron Bowl in that season finale. So all things considered, with a freshman quarterback, with an elite defense, Auburn going 9-3 in the regular season. Not too bad for Gus Malzahn and the Tigers. But they have their sights set on things much bigger in 2020, especially in a relatively wide open SEC West. We know the elites are Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, and Auburn. Can the Tigers take advantage of it and try to slip in there as West champions? To do that, they are going to have to be led by Bo Nix, their quarterback. He played relatively well as a freshman last year, throwing for over 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. Not too bad. Keep in mind he added some rushing touchdowns as well. Auburn is now led by a new offensive coordinator in Chad Morris, the former Arkansas head coach, but also the former offensive coordinator at Clemson in the early 2010s. Him and Malzahn have a very unique and very strong relationship, and he thinks he can come in, take over the play calling duties, and really rejuvenate this Auburn offense. Nix returns his top 3 wide receivers from last year in Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, and Eli Stove, so the passing game shouldn't struggle at all. The biggest thing is going to be up front, as Auburn loses all 5 of their offensive linemen. We know in the SEC, you've got to be able to win in the trenches, and Bo Nix needs time in the pocket to throw. That's going to be the biggest question mark on Auburn's offense going into this upcoming season. Defensively, the Tigers returned 4 starters from a unit that allowed just 19.5 points per game last year. But we praised them all 2019, saying they had the best defensive line in all of college football. And they did. But now they're all gone. They lose Derrick Brown, and they lose their sack leader in Marlon Davidson. But luckily for Auburn, they have playmakers at every key position group on the defensive side of the ball. They've got big Kat Bryant up on the defensive line. They've got KJ Britt leading the linebackers, arguably the best linebacker, or one of, in the entire SEC. And then you've got Christian Tutt leading the secondary. So an Auburn defense that doesn't return too many starters from last year will still remain one of the better units in the entire Southeastern Conference. We take a look at their schedule here, guys. Opening up the season against Alcorn State. Easy victory. 1-0. Done. Things get interesting in week 2. When Auburn travels to Atlanta to take on North Carolina. And everybody likes to give the ACC a bad rap, which I do too. The ACC is by far the weakest of the Power 5 conferences. Outside of Clemson, there's really not a team that can really strike fear into you. Well, I think North Carolina can be that team in 2020 that outside of Clemson can strike fear into you. Mack Brown surprised everybody last year by going 7-6 with the Tar Heels. All 6 of those losses coming by just 1 possession, including a 1-point loss to Clemson. The scary thing for North Carolina is that, or for Auburn, is that North Carolina returns practically everybody from that unit last year. They returned 10 offensive starters led by Sam Howell, who threw for over 3,600 yards and 38 touchdowns as a freshman last year. So Bo Nix versus Sam Howell, 2 sophomore quarterbacks, 2 of the better sophomore quarterbacks in the country, going at it in Atlanta. They returned their 1,000-yard rusher in Michael Carter, and they returned a defense that returned 7 starters and allowed just 23.7 points per game. This UNC team, guys, is different. They're good. They're scary good. Their offense is freaky good. Now, I look at this game. We mentioned the trenches, guys. I think North Carolina's defensive line really exploits Auburn's weaknesses up front, pressures Bo Nix just a little bit, and a game that Bo Nix is going to have to win solely through the air, I think North Carolina's secondary steps up in a big way. Sam Howell and the Tar Heels get a late touchdown, and North Carolina upsets the Tigers. Many will disagree. I know it. Many will say they're part of the SEC, ACC. They haven't played anybody. The SEC's better, this and that and the other. North Carolina is the real deal, guys. They are a 9-win team, probably minimum this year. Mac Brown is working wonders in Chapel Hill, and I think they get a huge win over an SEC opponent, much like they did last year, taking down South Carolina in their season opener. Auburn, coming off a loss, travels to Oxford to take on the Lane Train and Ole Miss. Auburn only beat Ole Miss 20-14 last year, and that game was at Auburn. The game was a little bit closer, or a little bit more of a blowout than the score indicated, but still just a 6-point victory for an Ole Miss team that really wasn't all that good. The key for Ole Miss this year is their offense. We know that. Lane Kiffin's going to come in and make them one of the best offenses in the SEC. And they were last year, ranking 9th nationally in their rushing offense. And when you've got a quarterback like John Rice Plumlee that can run the ball, you've got Jerrion Ely at running back, and Elijah Moore, who's a pretty dang good wide receiver, Ole Miss should be very difficult to stop offensively, which is going to really test this Auburn defense. But I look at this, I think North Carolina is a great tune-up for this game. I think you look at that, how well North Carolina is going to play offensively this year, how much I think Auburn's defense could struggle against North Carolina's offense. They're not going to allow a team to beat them up offensively 2 weeks in a row. So going into Ole Miss, I think Bo Nix has a huge day against an Ole Miss defense that I think will struggle in year one under Lane Kiffin. And the Tigers bounce back with a big SEC win to start off 1-0 in conference, and we also have them beating Southern Miss to round out September. Not an automatic victory by any means. They have a very good passing attack, but Auburn should be able to get the job done. So they're 3-1 now, going into the bulk of SEC play, taking on Kentucky to kick off October. Kentucky doing a fantastic job under Mark Stoops. He is, like Mac Brown, has been working wonders in Lexington. Kentucky now gets a traditional quarterback back under center. They don't have to worry about Lynn Bowden running the offense. Terry Wilson should be back under center. Maybe Joey Gatewood if he is eligible, which would make an intriguing storyline here, as Gatewood, of course, did transfer from Auburn to the Wildcats. Kentucky's defense was one of the best in the country last year. They were second nationally in passing defense. They were 21st in the country in total defense, which means Auburn's offense will have their work cut out for them. And if Bo Nix does not take a step forward like we think he will, like he should, then when they face off against solid defenses like North Carolina, like Kentucky, then later on Georgia, maybe Alabama and LSU, Auburn could greatly struggle. But I don't think that's the case. I think in a very low-scoring game on the Plains, Auburn takes care of the Wildcats. They've now won 3 straight. They are 4-1 going into Georgia and Texas A&M. The road game at Georgia is huge. Obviously a huge rivalry game, but big for Georgia's SEC East title hopes, and same for Auburn. They still don't have a conference loss yet, so this is huge for them if they want to try to go on and win the SEC West. Problem is they have to travel to Athens. The problem is Georgia will boast one of the best, if not the best, defense in the entire country. Auburn only lost to the Bulldogs 21-14 last year at Auburn. But I think this Georgia team takes another step forward under Kirby Smart. Defense is still elite. Offense has some questions, but they do bring in 2 transfer quarterbacks, Jamie Newman and JT Daniels. They bring in a new offensive coordinator. Georgia's offense was so stagnant last year that the new quarterbacks, the new coordinators, the new schemes, the young faces, all of that is really going to rejuvenate this Georgia offense and make them more electric. I just don't see the Tigers having enough to go into Athens and pull off this win. So we have them falling to the Bulldogs. They take on Texas A&M at home. And the series between Auburn and A&M, guys, has been so weird since Texas A&M joined the SEC back in 2012. Auburn is 1-3 at home against the Aggies. but 4-0 on the road against the Aggies. And that included that 28-20 victory in College Station last year. So Auburn has been unable to win at home against Texas A&M, but they can sure as heck defeat them on the road. Same for A&M. They take care of business on the road against Auburn, but can't win in College Station. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's a trend to keep your eye on going into this game. This is a Texas A&M team, guys, that's going to be very, very good. Everybody always says they're overhyped, but Jimbo Fisher, entering year 3, this is his best team yet. A&M could start off the season 9-1 or 10-0. And I don't think that one potential loss is going to come against Auburn. I think Auburn falls at home against A&M, a team that returns 16 starters. You got Kellen Mond, you got Isaiah Spiller, you got Jamon Osborne. You've got so many great talents offensively. The biggest thing for Texas A&M is their secondary. They've got to improve big time. They cannot allow too many big pass plays. I just don't think they're going to allow too many on the road against Auburn, a place they usually play extremely well. So A&M, best team yet under Fisher, goes on the road and takes care of the Tigers, and they now have their 3rd loss of the season. Luckily for Auburn, they get a little bit of a break from October 31st to November 14th. They don't face too many elite opponents. Get off the bye week, they go on the road to take on Mississippi State, a team they defeated 56-23 last year in one of Bo Nix's greatest performances of 2019. He threw for 335 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 56 rushing yards, and another touchdown on the ground. Mike Leach, yes, is in with that air raid offense. You bring in KJ Costello from Stanford. You've got Kylan Hill, where if Auburn's defense isn't up to par, could put up some yards against the Tigers. But off a week of rest, angry after back-to-back losses, a Mississippi State team that has too many questions defensively, Auburn goes on the road and takes care of business. And the same can be said for the home game against Arkansas, an Arkansas team that will take a step forward offensively under Sam Pittman, but defensively has too much to figure out. Defensively is going to be a nightmare for the Razorbacks. But the intriguing storyline, of course, is Chad Morris, the new offensive coordinator for Auburn, taking on Arkansas, his former team. They get a win against UMass, of course, so after back-to-back losses, they've won 3 straight, 2 of which come in SEC conference play. They now take on LSU and Alabama, arguably the top 2 teams in the SEC West, in consecutive weeks. Luckily for Auburn, though, they get to host one of them. And luckily for Auburn, while they host that game, they win that game. Yeah, we have them upsetting LSU. Plain and simple. Why? It makes sense, guys. Last year, LSU boasted what was arguably the greatest college football team we have ever seen. Led by Joe Burrow as quarterback, the Heisman winner, the number 1 overall NFL draft pick. The defense was elite. Christian Fulton, Grant Delpit, Derrick Stingley. And Auburn only lost by 3 points in Death Valley. That was with a freshman quarterback in Bo Nix, who didn't have a bad performance that game. It was just mediocre. Bo Nix takes a step forward. The game is now at Auburn. LSU loses so much from that national championship winning squad last year. To me, all signs almost point to an Auburn victory to pull off an upset over the reigning national champions. I do think they get the job done. They've won 4 straight now going into the Iron Bowl against Alabama, where I believe their season will conclude with a loss. Last year against Alabama, Auburn benefited from 2 huge pick sixes off of Mac Jones, who will now be the starting quarterback for Alabama. 2 huge pick sixes, and Alabama once again not being able to make field goals, missing the potential game-tying field goal late in the 4th quarter. If Alabama's defense is fully healthy, they suffered so many injuries last year. If they are healthy, they will improve greatly. The game is at Bryant-Denny Stadium, where Nick Saban has only lost once to the Tigers during his time with the Crimson Tide. Alabama out for revenge in this game. Mac Jones improving now in a full year as starter for the Crimson Tide. I just don't see the Tigers being able to go on the road and pull off this win, which means we have Auburn finishing 2020 with an 8-4 record. And I know many will not like that. I know many will be disappointed with that. They'll be upset with that, thinking that they should be going 9-3, maybe even 10-2. You could sub out the North Carolina game with a win. Maybe they take care of Texas A&M at home. Of course, historically, they have not been able to do that. But I think 8-4, maybe 9-3 is just about right for Gus Malzahn and the Tigers. The SEC West is wide open in 2020. They benefit from the home game against A&M and LSU. Can they take advantage of it? Can Bo Nix, Chad Morris, and Gus Malzahn bond together, improve in 2020, and take advantage of it? A few upsets, a few plays go their way, and we're looking at a completely different season for the Tigers down on the Plains. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. We got the Auburn Tigers going 8-4 in 2020. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. Check out the content on our website, thegridironexpert.com. And also follow us on social media over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.